Are you ready for an open discussion with the best of the best and the best of what's next? Welcome to the Tony DUrso Show. Join in on a great conversation today with some of the world's great influencers as they showcase great advice and techniques that made them the game changers they are today. Now, here's Tony DUrso.
Welcome, I'm your host, Tony DUrso, and I want to thank you for stopping by and checking out this week's episode, Friends Help Friends. And I have something I want to share with you to help you get a little bit more ahead in this world. You know, with everything that's been happening, we need every break we can get, and I surely hope this helps cut some slack for you. It's all about helping you turn your vision into reality. And today we're chatting with someone at the top of their category, an elite entrepreneur, and we're going to discuss the next big trend with Stephen Mathai-Davis. And we're going to chat about how you can profit from it. Yeah, there's money involved, so check it out. Now, historically, I invest in my own business to make it grow, and perhaps a small bit here and there when that light bulb goes off above my head. It takes skill, it takes intelligence, prudence, and I say nerves of steel sometimes to make investments really work for you the way that you want them to. And while I'm still learning about all of this myself, what if you had access to the world's top investment strategies? Now, to be clear from the beginning, this episode is not about selling any securities or investments. It's about showing you what the next big trend is and how you can use that knowledge to your advantage. Now, do you remember my interview with Daniel Burrus about predicting the future? Well, this goes right in line with that and much more. What if you could have an artificial intelligence application that helps you make the best of whatever you like to invest into? Meet Stephen Mathai-Davis. He's the CEO and also co-founder of Q.ai, which is a Forbes-backed FinTech startup and a recently launched Q.ai Invest. That's an AI-powered robo-advisor, and I like that. And it brings institutional-grade investing strategies to individual investors like you and I. And as a fintech leader and influential data scientist, which is also pretty amazing, Stephen was recognized as a 2020 Listmaker of the Year by Benzinga, and he was a finalist for Rising Star of the Year by the 2021 US FinTech Awards. He's frequently quoted by Forbes, Fox Business, Business Insider, Nasdaq, and all the big publications. Let's find out more and dig into this. Hi, Stephen. Welcome to the Tony DUrso Show. I'm so glad to have you with us.
Hey, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
Stephen, we're all looking forward to learning more about the next big trend. I'm sure I've piqued some interest here and there, and we have a lot of questions. But just before we get into that, please, let's fill this in with your backstory and tell us, how did it all start for you?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny. I kind of grew up in the business. My dad was very active in the institutional investment management business going back to the late 80s, early 90s. And I've been exposed to stock trading, stock investing in fixed income markets, commodities, currencies since I was roughly 8 or 9 years old, and was that kid in school talking about stocks in his math class when you had to do math projects back in the day. Spent most of my career in institutional investment management, both on the asset management side and the hedge fund side, and realized there was a real problem in the marketplace. Now, if you looked at what we were doing, whether it was at the asset management companies where I worked, hedge funds where I worked, or the hedge fund I founded, we were bringing really cool strategies to high net worth individuals, pension funds, you name it. But Main Street, so the average individual investor, had access to none of this stuff. And I would speak to my friends about how they're investing, how they're trying to get started to invest. And most of them would be talking about buying vanilla mutual funds, going into just really basic robo-advisors, just stuff that, we'd laugh at on the institutional side. And I realized, hey, it's a real opportunity here to try to democratize what we're doing on the institutional side and bring it to the retail investor, to the average person. And that's what we set out to do, which is to tear down the walls that are preventing the average person from accessing institutional grade investing and bring it to mass market. And we're doing it through the power of AI.
I see. And I'd like to drill down into that vision that you saw. You through your career here, you've become a fintech leader. You've become an influential data scientist, and now you've launched Q.ai. What's this vision that you saw like, and how did that start that you go, hey, I can help others, or whatever it was? Can you take us through that, how that started?
Yeah, how did it start? It really started when I was experimenting with predictive analytics, which is more or less what AI is, and realized that the future, at least of investing on the buy side, that's what the institutional investment management side of things is called on Wall Street, the buy side, would be towards predictive analytics. And the reason that's the case is that predictive analytics would lead to more probabilistic investing, theoretically leading to better outcomes, and that's where the buy side was going. And then if you looked at what the average person had outside of Wall Street, so if you don't have access to these Wall Street strategies, the average person had access to stuff that was totally outdated, 20, 30 years old in terms of investment heuristics. So the models that folks use. And, speaking to friends, speaking to other people, I realized, wow, none of them have any understanding of what I'm doing at work. We realized that given the evolution of fin technology, so specifically cloud computing, the fact that the back office now is totally automated, we could bring these types of technologies and models to the average person. And that's what precipitated this move towards that. The idea of bringing institutional grade investing to the average person.
Stephen, aside from perhaps the funny or the silly point of doing it to make money and do well on investing, is there some reason or purpose? Why did you decide that this was so important to put together? What's behind that? What's the why on this?
Yeah, why do it? I really felt like when I was in the hedge fund rung, that there was no real purpose to what I was doing. I was just helping other rich people become richer, and I'd become wealthy along with it. But there was no real purpose. Whereas the average person, my friends, my wife's friends, they were being left behind. And in some ways, when people talk about wealth inequality in the US, it's not necessarily just salaries that are causing this massive disparity. It's also the fact that rich or high net worth individuals have access to investing products and tools that the average person doesn't. And that's how they're able to compound, whereas the average person doesn't have access to really anything. So they're kind of being left behind. And that's what's driving, in some ways, the wider disparity between the haves who have a lot of money and the average person.
It's very interesting. And we're talking with Stephen Mathai-Davis about the next big trend. And you can find out more about this at tryq.ai, and I'll spell that. That's TRY, the letter Q.ai. Is that right, Stephen?
Absolutely. And by the way, we're not making any money at all. It's free to use.
Oh, well, we're definitely going to get into that too. That's very cool that it's free to use and will help us. Well, okay, let's take it at the very top, the very basic. Why AI? Why do we need it?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So the way, if we take a walk down Wall Street, to use that cliche, the way investing used to be done was built around storytelling. So an analyst would go ahead and create a story about why a fund should invest in a certain security or trade, things like that. It would then be presented to a portfolio manager who would think about the story in the context of other stories that his or her other analysts were pitching them. Well, what if you could just remove the storytelling element and just start looking at probabilities and say, this trade will do well based on the probabilities versus another one? And AI helps you do that. And that's where I became really engrossed with the application of artificial intelligence, and not just basic SMVs and things like that, but like real interesting stuff with deep learning and reinforcement learning and their application to making investment decisions. Because what it was doing, it was introducing high conviction probabilities into the investment decision making process. So as a portfolio manager, if you have high conviction based on your models in terms of what to purchase, it's easier to build a portfolio or build a strategy in general.
I see. And we are talking about a very general topic here. We're talking about investments. We're talking about an app. We're talking about AI. Are we limited? And I'm still learning about this, so I'm very curious as well as can we invest in, of course we can invest in tech, can we invest in in green, can we invest in real estate, can we invest in cryptocurrencies? What markets are available with your services?
Well, right now we're covering public markets in the US. So we're covering all stocks and ETFs. We don't focus on bonds because the way fixed income is traded, it's not suitable as a digital product for the individual investor, but you can still get exposure to it through ETFs that own fixed income securities. We also focus on cryptocurrencies as well. We're looking to expand in the future into options markets in the US and down the road also expand into international markets.
Okay, so far so good. Now this AI, TryQ.ai, can help. Does it help forecast market movements? How kind of take us into how does it know anything because it sees a lot of movement? Does it read the newspaper? I'm being a little silly. What data does it operate off of in order to be able to forecast what would be a good investment decision?
Yeah, that's a good question. The real answer is all of the above, but first starts off with us. And the problem with artificial intelligence, it starts off as a dumb machine. So the only way it becomes smart is about the person pumping in the factors or the things to look at. So you got to be very careful in terms of what you throw that in there. But the way we look at markets it's just beyond traditional fundamental factors, beyond just price and volume factors. We're looking at alternative data. We're looking at sentiment data. We're looking at the news. We're looking at Google search data. And we're funneling that all through the algorithms themselves with this idea of saying, well, now begin to forecast out based on everything you're seeing and based on how things have performed in the past, these new changes and these factors that we put through the model, what do we think the market's going to go over the next week and over the next month? The challenge with artificial intelligence is that because of all the information, you're able to make some level of prediction going forward. But that prediction tends to have a shorter time decay. So it's not as if I can sit here and tell you this is where the market's going to be in a year. But it's really useful for figuring out where's it going to go in the next week, next couple of weeks. And that's how we apply it to our strategies themselves as we're trying to optimize around it for our users.
I have a lot of questions all at once. One thing I want to make sure I get out of the way or taken care of is the try.qi, and I probably said that wrong. TryQ.ai, there I said it right. Is it a brokerage account like Schwab, E-Trade, and so forth? Do you take a fee if I do a trade? You make your funds or your money, your income by taking a piece of that. How does that work on the back end?
No, not at all. So we are a registered IRA. So that means we are an investment advisor. We have partnered with Apex Clearing, who serves as the broker dealer. So the brokerage account is held in the person's name at Apex. Apex is SIPC and FDIC insured. The accounts are. So all monies are FDIC insured. All brokerage assets are SIPC insured. We're just sitting on top of your brokerage account. And what we're doing is sending the signals to say, this is where the shift should be based on what you've subscribed to. Our business model is going to be built around this concept of subscription model. And we call it the Netflixication of investing, where people are going to begin to subscribe to investing services. But for right now, the entire service is available for free because what we're trying to do is build a product that people really want. And the way you do that is leaving it for free and looking for feedback. So our whole idea has been to build it from the ground up with feedback from users, which has been really cool. Because the product itself has evolved rapidly from what I imagined 2 years ago to what it is today. 2 years ago, it would have been a more passive traditional robo-advisor with institutional grade strategies. And today, as you know, Tony, it's turned into something very unique, where it's unique investment kits built around short-term themes, longer-term themes that are expiring, where people are beginning to build their own portfolio of themes and kits.
Now, I'm not particularly trying to sell this. I make no income from this, but everything that you've said so far, and I still have more questions. It sounds like it's really leveling the playing field, but it's no longer the rich getting rich. You brought that up at the beginning with their advisors and AI that they have available to them and so on and so forth. It really takes it down to the solopreneur, the small businessman, the entrepreneur, the layman. It really seems like it levels the playing field because I'm getting that it's watching. It's like your helper. It's watching all the markets and everything so that it can help you make the best decisions possible.
Yeah, the way to think about it, and we like to say we're leveling the playing field, but that makes it a lot about us. What we're trying to do is empower you, the viewers of the show, and the listeners, to realize your own financial freedom through your own personal wealth movement. And what we're trying to do is give you the experience that a high net worth individual has. So the way the high net worth individuals shop when they go to high end wealth management places is they're not being randomly thrown into some 60-40 stocks bond portfolio. They're picking, choosing a la carte between different ideas and concepts and themes, and the a portfolio is then being built for them. So when you come on the QAI platform right now, maybe I'm interested in playing what's going on with infrastructure spending. Maybe I'd like to play the what's going on with inflation. I like to maybe mix in a little bit of a value strategy, an emerging tech strategy. And heck, I'm really into what's going on with the microchip shortage. So I'm going to play the global microchip shortage. All these are unique kits that are being managed by AI. You've now chosen the group that you want to invest in. We either let you decide how you want to put your monies in there, or we let AI on top of it, another layer, make the allocations dynamically for you. And now your monies are truly being invested the way folks manage money for high net worth individuals, and really the way some of the elite funds actually manage money, which is they invest into themes and different trades. They don't invest into individual stocks. They first think in a theme and they allocate into that. It's pretty exciting stuff, and it's a lot of fun.
It sounds very interesting, and I'm very curious about so many facets of this. Perhaps if you walk us through an investing, if that's the right way to say it, the whole process. We go to tryq.ai, if I'm saying that right, and you said it's free to use. So we go in as a regular user. Can you just take us through the process? What would we expect to see and how that works? That'll help show how easy it is to use.
Yeah, it's simple. So you go to tryq.ai and you get a link to your iOS app store because it's a mobile app right now, only available in Apple at the moment. We're expanding to Android in the future. Download the app. You go through a quick KYC check, which we're just required to do to make sure you're eligible to invest. And then suddenly you're prompted to choose from a bunch of themes. Now, think about the kits as content. We call it content activated investing. The way all of us think about first things is ideas. So imagine I'm really reading about infrastructure. I'd like to get exposure there because the Congress just passed a $1.2 trillion bill for infrastructure spending. Or I want to be exposed to emerging tech. I'd like to be exposed to digital assets. I don't know what to do there, but it'd be great if somebody were managing money for me. So now you've selected 3 kits. So emerging tech, crypto, the crypto kit, infrastructure spending. And it's just one-click investing. You just say invest, and that's it. Don't have to do anything more. Your funds are already in there, and we allocate for you, all done. And your job is just to check your performance, see how you're doing, and decide if you would like to add more kits, or hopefully not. In our case, close your account and roll out because you're unhappy with the performance. But we introduce all kinds of things on top of that. Hey, I'm worried about market selling off. Just give me AI-powered hedging. Just click a button. That's it. Turn it on.
And it can just run itself. You've said this a couple times, but it's so new that I just kind of want to emphasize a little bit. It just can run itself if you give it its some parameters of what you're looking at.
Yeah, you don't even have to set parameters. It's just saying, I like a kit. I like this theme, or we call them investment kits, but I like this idea. Invest. Click a button. That's it. And then, by the way, you have full transparency into what's going on. There's no black box. You know what you hold at any given point. You know how much of a dollar amount you own in each single kit.
And this program, like the big boys have, decides to sell, decides to buy, decides to do whatever.
Does everything. You don't have to do anything. The only job you've got to do is say, I want to be in this kit. So you've got to decide if you like clean tech. So that's one of our select investment kits. You just have to make a decision. I want to be invested in clean tech. You do the rest. Figure out what stocks and ETFs I should own every week. I don't really care beyond that. So you just decide you want to be in clean tech. One click investing, boom, done.
Stephen, how long has this been available on the Apple app platform?
We released it back in March. We were the number one product launched on Product Hunt back then, and we've just been slowly gearing up over the last few months. So we're still in beta, but we're preparing to come out of it. It's still most folks can just sign up right now without any issues. But we're just rolling out some interesting features over that time. We've been testing it, building new experiences that, based on feedback we've been receiving. But right now, anybody with an iPhone is eligible to install the app.
And it sounds amazing. It is amazing. You've won awards, you've won, et cetera. You're talked about all over the press. I've talked about this already. Can you tell us what kind of a success track record you're seeing? And I know there's no promises or guarantees, but just what's it looking like?
Yeah, I want to be careful there, but I would say that if you look at pretty much all our kits, everything has outperformed benchmarks, outperformed the S&P 500. And again, that's all hypothetical performance. You've got to go, each individual's returns are going to be different depending on when you invest. But I'm pretty pleased by it. And what's been interesting is these micro themes that we've gone into have really become popular with our user base. Now, the user base is still, the beta stage, and it's growing, but it's been cool to see that. We took a risk and we released something called Guilty Pleasures, which was, you can't buy this anywhere because there's no ETF, which was a kit that was investing in gambling stocks, sex stocks, alcohol stocks, tobacco stocks, and cannabis stocks. That's done incredibly. I mean, I could sell that as a portfolio strategy. I'm not sure people would want to openly say they're investing in it, but now suddenly we put it as a kit on our platform and everybody wants to be in it.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. What else? You know more about this, and I think you've answered my basic questions. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we come away with in our understanding of what you have here?
Yeah, maybe it's just a general term. It's not just about us, but the way you want to think about investing. And I think this is where things are going beyond just AI. You don't want to think about things at such a micro level, saying, what stocks do I want to be in? You hear these discussion points all the time. Correlations between some of the largest tech stocks are high. That essentially just means they're all the same stock. They're all moving together. When you think about constructing a portfolio, and this is the way the elite money managers do their things, as well as the really, really elite wealth managers for high net worth individuals, you invest in themes. And that's how you build a portfolio. You build themes. Now, our investment kits themselves are just themes. Right now, we've packaged it in a different way to make it very easy for the individual investor to interact with the content. But that's essentially what it is. It's a theme. Clean tech is a theme. Emerging tech is a theme. Global trends, that's a theme. And you build a portfolio around a theme, because if you build it around a theme, you're going to have a lot of success, whether it be on the QAI app or in your own brokerage account. And that's really what I would hope a lot of your viewers and listeners come away with is you build your portfolio, think about themes. Maybe QAI is not the right platform for you, but I hope one of the biggest things you take out of this is, one, investing in themes is the way to go. And two, using AI to help predict and create more probabilistic investing definitely will lead to better outcomes.
I'm going to get the app after this interview, and I'm going to throw some stuff in there and check it out because I am like very excited about it. And it's probably because I'm Italian. I'm easily excitable, and I'm not a negative person. So I mean this, but I think I have to kind of bring this up. There are unfortunately people out there that write and talk about bad things about companies or say incorrect there's false data, false news, et cetera, out there. The AI is reading all this. So could somebody game the system by tricking the AI? How much are its actions predicated upon what other people say, I guess, as opposed to what they do, as opposed to trends they may see? I hope I'm saying the question the right way. Maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. For that to really work, you'd have to manipulate literally every data source we're looking at. So we look at thousands of data sources for some of our alternative news sentiment and some of the social sentiment we're looking at. But the way you have to think about the models themselves is that they're using the data as a way to train whether or not it's predictive for stock price moves. So if somebody's just saying garbage that's not really moving the stock at all, the models themselves are just going to throw it out. That's just the way it works, or it's going to be low weighted. Now, if they're saying things that are lies that still move the stock, well, you do want to consider that, right? And the models themselves will introduce that as a factor weight.
I understand that it's weighted. That makes perfect sense. It has so much credence or value it puts on so many of its data sources. So I get that part.
And I keep in mind one last thing: the models themselves are never static, right? They're ever learning, ever evolving.
Very interesting. Stephen, this is very fascinating, and I am going to try this. And you've done a lot in your world. You've done a lot in this industry, and so forth. We're always also on the lookout for what helps us take our success to the next level. And one question I always like to ask is, are there any personal habits that you feel contribute to the success of you accomplishing your vision here and putting this out? It's a lot of work. It's I'm sure you've had your bumps in the road and your roadblocks and everything, yet you persevered, you've put this out, you've created it. And we'd like to learn from you if you feel that there's any particular habits or routines that are very important to success.
Yeah, that's great. When you're talking about routine itself, is I'm going to probably just use that as a way to explain, I think, some of the things that I've learned along the way. Having a set routine and being organized and structured has really helped me. In the beginning, when you think about startup, it's just creative madness, and that's what people tell you to do. One of the things I've taken away from my experiences and being an entrepreneur over the last 5 to 10 years has been the best way to do things is in a very systematic, organized fashion. You're not going to get everything done that you need to get done. So you got to get comfortable with that. And the best way to think about it is you can list out the 5 to 10 things you need to get done and more or less decide what are the 6 or 7 things you're not going to do. Because you can't do all 5 to 10, but you can do 3 to 4 really good. And once you get comfortable with that, and you get comfortable narrowing down what you really need to focus on, that's going to move the needle, the 80-20 rule, you'll feel a lot better. And those are lessons I had to learn along the way. I'm still learning them.
Very good. Good points. And are there any other resources that you feel are good, especially for new investors or people that haven't invested so much? I'm sure a lot of us have dabbled and invested in various things. I know crypto is going crazy. There's a lot of push and excitement on that. But there's also some pitfalls in areas that we have to be careful. So I'd love to know if you have any great resources or do's and don'ts that perhaps you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, great resources. I'm going to actually plug ourselves because we're investing quite heavily here. Investing in education is really important. And investing in education you can trust is really important. And obviously, we're being incubated by Forbes, which is a brand that folks really trust, that's really committed to total transparency. And kind of been part of that, we've spent a lot of time building out what we call snackable investing education, with short form education to really explain different types of investing topics, which are really important. So I would definitely just encourage folks to check that out, what we're building, because we're building it for you, independent of whether or not you use the platform. It's part of our ethos to really try to democratize and help folks to invest better for the future. It's part of what I said earlier, our mission to empower people to realize their financial freedom. Outside of that, tools like that I've used in the past that really helped me were tools like Investopedia. But really what I found was reading a lot of books about investing helped quite a bit. And investing in yourself to understand investing, you really can't. I don't know what would be a better shot there. There's nothing better than that in terms of really improving your ability to understand what to do. Because what's going to help you also understand is the charlatans, and there's a lot of them pushing stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Stephen, that brings up a good point on the application that we would get on our phone. Does it have some resources? Does it have any tutorials? Anything that we can use to also train ourselves to be better, sharper investors?
Yeah, so we've invested quite heavily in this content. So when you come on the app, even if you don't open up a brokerage account, you have access to all our content. So all our content we're pushing on Forbes.com, which tends to be more high level thematic discussions, what I like to call thought leadership, as well as the educational content that we're pushing on TriQ.ai. All that's available too. Over the next couple of months, we're also going to roll out a lot of tutorials about the app and how to use this AI to really help you. Because one of the things we realize is people come on the app, it's like, oh my God, I can choose from 25 kits. I don't know what to do, the basics. And we're going to roll a lot of that out over the next 2 to 3 months, including what we like to call our starter bundle of kits, which is going to let folks immediately go into a starter bundle to just get their feet wet.
That brings up a good point. So I log into the app, I go check it out. I don't know what to invest in. You have what are the best performing themes that would be something to look into?
We have that, but we have one thing better, which is we put you through a risk profile, what we like to call your investor personality, and we recommend kits to you based on your personality.
Oh, that's
So you're
perfect.
going to see when you go to the kits, you get badges saying, "Hey, this is what we recommend."
Oh, that's even
Now,
better.
on top of that, we're kind of introducing the starter bundle. It's like, hey, I don't even want to start there. Just put me into a starter bundle. Let me get my feet wet. I don't want to lose money. I don't want to be too aggressive. Let me just learn a little bit here.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I really like the themes. And again, I'm going to go join and get into this because it just sounds just like what I need. So I don't think it could come at a better time. The world needs something like this. And we believe that something like this could really help us when we need a little, we need some help. We need a break.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I'd say this to many of your viewers and listeners, and I lived through 2008, as a trader and investor on the professional side of things. Markets don't go up forever, and the markets have been, let's say S&P 500 is up well over 400% since the 2010. When things go back to normal and normalize in some way, markets are going to become volatile again, and smart investing is going to matter. And smart investing is not what stocks to buy. It's going to be how do you build a portfolio, how do you manage risk, and you want to start thinking about that. Whether or not QAI is right for you, that's a different discussion. But beginning to get smart now would make a lot of sense, especially with inflation beginning to inch higher. Things are going to start to change. At least I think that's going to be the case going into 2022.
Yes. Stephen, I know you mentioned that it's free to use. There's no charge for it. Open a brokerage account. I get that. Is there a minimum that's to start? Because in the past, some minimums at some brokerage accounts were rather high. Is there a minimum or is there no minimum? What is that like?
It's $100 minimum. That's it.
That's extremely affordable. Everyone can do that and play with it and try. Though I'm not saying everyone should do it. I'm just saying it's very doable for just about everyone. Stephen, I think you've answered all my questions on this. I have to go and check it out, and I'm just looking around on some of the material here. Um, this is, with the technology that we have today, you would think, why hasn't this come up before? Because the bigger companies, the institutional companies, the very wealthy, they've had this sort of thing before. And we really appreciate that you've made this available for the layman. And it's like, it seems like it's been a long time coming for something like this.
Yeah, the way you think about it is the evolution of the institutional investment management side of things, so the buy side. It's moving really rapidly towards predictive analytics. It's doing that because of what I talked earlier about probabilities of outcomes and trying to maximize positive outcomes, which is typically just higher returns. Most of the folks who can do that are going to the institutional side because they're going to get paid a lot of money. The individual investor market, there has been a lot of investment into the advisor side of things. It's really been shifting towards do-it-yourself platforms like Robinhood, because the question I kept getting is, why are you doing this? Because you're not going to make as much money being an advisor to the average individual investor as you would running a hedge fund. All right. And I grew up in an environment where I was expected to become a hedge fund manager. My answer to that is like the entire market itself is totally changing. We call it asset management 2.0. I think you're going to see over time the shift towards bespoke, individualized investing experiences for each individual. And the evolution of technology is going to permit that. And it's through something that's called a separately managed account, which is more or less your own brokerage account. I think over time, people are going to start to get wise to thinking, hey, this is more fun to do. Yes, I may make more money running a fund, but I'm going to have a lot more fun creating these bespoke investing themes. Imagine themes just for you, Tony, an infrastructure spending theme that's built around what you're looking for. These are the types of things I'm envisioning and imagining in my mind. And you can do that through AI, by the way, very easily. That's a whole lot more fun. And that's where I see things going. And coming back to that earlier question, it's just the way. People have always thought what to do was to go to institutional buy side. I think over time, people are going to realize it's a whole lot more fun doing what we're doing.
It really sounds like it's really well guided. I think back on some of my economics classes way back in university when we learned about atoms and the invisible hand that moves markets and how it all works and the buy and sell and the create want and the demand and the want and how everything balances. And it seems to me that this is, another greater version of that, where if the AI is out there watching everything, it seems that nothing horrible could happen because it catches it really fast and it deals with it. And it seems like everything moves a little bit better on a wave. I won't know until I've run it for a while and tried it, but it just seems like it puts the control more in us and levels that playing field. I know I've mentioned that before, but it seems like we're more in charge, even though we have an AI. It's almost like an oxymoron to be more in charge, but have a computer run it for you. But
Yeah.
it does seem that to be where we're going on this.
Yeah, well, that's the experience we wanted to give. Like, look, AI is not going to prevent you from losing money. So I don't want to promise that. And there's going to be some instances where the AI is just wrong. But the beauty of AI is that it's able to react quicker and faster than a normal human. Now, there is a person controlling the AI, so it's the strategists who are creating the algorithms, tweaking and optimizing them for things. But it's faster responsive. It has more quicker response times. That's the way to think about it. And if you compare that to what my old job was, where I'd be looking at spreadsheets and quickly trying to make sense of whether or not you should continue to own a stock, our algorithms are going to move at a million times faster speed. Now, longer term, I think there's going to be a total trend towards this. And this whole, what you were talking about, you have more control. Yeah, you do in some ways. Like for us, we call our experience an active, hands-free investing experience. You get to choose what you're in. And because artificial intelligence is driving the components of these kits, you don't need to worry about it. It's easy to say, I want to be invested in clean tech. I want to have something in precious metals. We just released something what we call the holiday spending kit. I want to be in your YouTube kit. I want to be in the Forbes kit. And heck, I'm going to be emerging tech and value fund. Now, I've just made an active decision to have monies put into these types of investment kits. Okay, AI, not only manage these kits for me, the stocks and ETFs, crypto that are within these kits. Now just manage the asset allocation dynamically for me. I'll sit back and I'll track my returns. And if I don't want to be in the theme anymore because it's not doing well, I'll just say remove the kit, and that's it. Yeah, unlike the other robo-advisors, we actually let you track your performance real time. just so you feel like you're really in control. And then we also give you examples of both the time-weighted return, which is a measure of how we're doing for you. That's a compounded return. And then the personal rate of return, which is a measure of how are you doing with the asset allocation. I think that's a great number for folks to look at, because compounded return is going to just show how we're doing for you. And hopefully it's going trending higher, but that's not really a measure of what you're doing either when you're selecting kids. And that personal rate of return, which is just your personal IRR, that's a great measure of how you're doing as you're selecting, as you were talking about earlier, you're actively selecting what kits or themes you want in your portfolio.
I can't wait to play with this. It sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like it's what we need right now. Stephen, I want to thank you so much about this and explaining this. And at this point, we just have to get hands-on to really understand more about it. And I do believe it's the next big trend. I do believe that. And I just want to say thank you so much. And again, that's tryq.ai. It's the next big trend with Stephen Mathai-Davis. Stephen, this is really, it's got me going. Thank you. I want to thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much for having me on, Tony. It was a real pleasure.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with me while I featured an elite entrepreneur who took his vision to reality. This was a very stimulating interview about money and investing, which I believe is a much easier way, and it's also the way of the future. The next big trend with Stephen Mathai-Davis. We talked about so many things in no particular order. We started with AI. What's AI? Why do we need it? How does it work? How it reads all these and accesses all these data points to make evaluated, skilled decisions, how it can help forecast market movements. We've heard of the big boys, the institutional, the wealthy, having automated programs, and here it is now for the regular person, the layman, you, the business person. Really levels the playing field. The scenario of how to invest is very simple. The application, the AI, is free. That is amazing. You go in, you set up your account, and you say, I like this area. I like tech stocks. I like crypto. I like whatever, different fields. I haven't gone into it yet, so I'm not familiar with all the themes, or I could create my own theme of what Tony likes. And it just makes it so easy to use. You put in whatever, 100, few hundred, you click the industries of what you want, and you just let it run on its own. Monitor it, make sure it's doing what you want it to do. And it's got a very interesting success track record. It's written about all over. It's hitting all the major publications. It's the real thing. But as with anything, you got to know and you got to educate yourself so that you can see that it's making the decisions that you would like it to make. So take use of the resources available and read up. And those resources are free, where you can read up and educate yourself a little bit better as an investor, so that between you and the computer, you're making really good choices. So check it out and tell me what you got out of this and how it resonates with you and how much you like it, and so on and so forth. And I just want to say thanks again for spending some time with us. We want to help you move on your journey to success. All right. Thanks. And remember, just take action. Success awaits those who persevere and remain steadfast despite the odds. Sow good seeds, do good deeds, and join me on the next episode of The Tony DUrso Show.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's edition of The Tony DUrso Show with his key influencers. Be sure to tune in again next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Influencers channel.